Hi, and welcome back to the DPAF. And in this podcast, I wanted to ask the question, do the unborn require political representation? And the obvious conclusion most would come to is no, David, of course they don't require political representation because the unborn don't have the burden of all the complicated problems we have in the world today or in the country today. They don't have to make difficult decisions. They're not even alive. Why would they need political representation? And I'm thinking back to the American revolutionaries that rebelled against King George and sought independence for America against the British, and they coined the phrase, no taxation without representation. And of course, we in Great Britain today treat our unborn totally brutally because we dump so much debt on them. We tax them so brutally prior to being born, so that after they're born, they have no choice but to pay tax on their labour and on their income to repay the debts we have accrued on our behalf, but yet we're dumping the cost on their behalf. And of course, this process has escalated. When I first started doing these videos, there was not a week that went by in the Chancellor of the Exchequer's office where they weren't saying, hey, don't worry, the unborn will pay for that, or don't worry, the unborn will pay for that, or don't worry, the unborn will pay for that. Now that I'm doing these videos, there's not a day that goes by where they don't say that. So any kind of bill that comes in to the Chancellor's office, hey, 50 billion over there, 20 billion over there, 100 billion over there, they just say, yeah, don't worry, the unborn will pay for that. And I think this process of generational theft is a gruesome crime, and it needs to stop immediately, and the perpetrators of these crimes need to be prosecuted. We've got to stop generational theft, and I think a great way to do it is to give the unborn political representation. Who's arguing on their behalf? I mean, I remember this during lockdown 1, David Davis, the esteemed David Davis, was on television talking about all these debts that were being racked up through the lockdown. And he, in as nonchalant a voice as possible, said, don't worry about this, we can just push these costs out to 2050. But yet thought nothing of asking the people of 2050 whether they want these costs pushed out on them. I mean, if you're a person of 2050, do you want to be repaying debts of 2020, especially if you were born in 2025 or 2030? I mean, how is this fair? Another thing that the unborn don't have people arguing on their behalf is, of course, abortion. And I speak more on issues of economics and government criminality. But of course, abortion should be obviously affects the unborn. And I do think the unborn should have political representation, people arguing on their behalf. I mean, what if the unborn child doesn't want to be aborted? I mean, what happens then? What if it's a unborn female? I mean, women are in favour of abortion. Does that mean we should not abort women babies, but we should abort male babies? I think the unborn are treated horribly with regard to economics in our country, with regards to tax in our country. But let's now move on to children. Children that are alive but do not vote. What about their political representation? We seem happy enough to dump debt on them as well. And what about these jabs for the 12 to 15-year-olds? The government's following the science. The scientists said we shouldn't do the jabs for 12 to 15-year-olds. And then the government said, well, we need to overrule the scientists because this doesn't suit us. We need to have jabs for the 12 to 15-year-olds. I mean, what if you're a parent of the 12 to 15-year-olds? The government's now saying we can jab these people without the parents' consent. We can do it with the child's consent, or we can do it without the child's consent. I mean, we've just had all these years of debate around consent for sexual relations, and you can't do anything without the consent of the woman. You can ignore the consent of the man, but we're talking about the consent of the woman. What about female young children? I mean, if they don't consent to the jab, does that mean that, we can just jab them anyway? What about their political representation? Who's representing these children when it comes to forced vaccines? So if you are a parent of young children, if you're a couple looking to have children, I'm sure these type of issues concern you just as much as they concern me, and I want to encourage you to consider escaping the system. Escape this system of government tyranny, escape this system of generational theft, escape this system of runaway debt and runaway tax. Your children do not need to be born or to grow up in this environment where they're essentially going to be debt slaves. Why not escape the system? That's what I've done. That's what I'm encouraging other people to do. I moved over here to the country of Georgia to escape the British system, and I hate talking down Great Britain. I'm as much an advocate of British civil liberties as anyone. I want to experience and enjoy and promote British civil liberties, but if you cannot do that in Great Britain, the good news is you can do it elsewhere. So check out my company Lifeboat. We've got a website, lifeboatnow.com, and I encourage you to come and visit me in the country of Georgia. We'll show you around, we'll get you set up if you want to move here. We can at least show you opportunities for investment. We can show you benefits of cost of living, significant benefits. We can show you how there is very, very, very little tax. If you are earning tax from foreign sources, you can earn money in Great Britain and you can pay no tax on it in Georgia. And you can enjoy a great life here going forward for the foreseeable future, rather than burden your children by growing up in Britain with all these brutal taxes that we are dumping on them without a second thought. So I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with your friends, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.